The Wacom Cintiq 22 might be the pen display that many of you were waiting for. It is more affordable than the high-end Cintiq Pro line, with some significant trade-offs but still offering the renowned Wacom drawing experience. I am not sure whether I should call it a budget or entry-level Cintiq, as it is still not that cheap with its current $1,200 price tag. In this video I am going to compare it in great detail to other products including the Cintiq Pros, the Huion Canvas Pro and even the iPad Pro to see how well it is positioned in terms of pricing and features. Wacom sent me this product for review purposes, but this is not a sponsored video, so I will be sharing my unbiased views about it. So let's talk about the specs first of all. The display size is very decent. It's actually 21.5 inch and it has a full HD resolution, so that's 1920 by 1080. This actually already is one of the biggest trade-offs compared to the Cintiq Pro line, where from the 16 inches up, you get 4K or Ultra HD displays, which means 4 times more pixels. This is a quite obvious difference, and you can actually see the pixels if you really look at the screen close up. But to be honest, most of the time you would work close, especially like depending on the drawing angle that you prefer. You might be leaning over the screen and then you can make out the pixels. It's not that big of an issue, to be honest. I forgot about it after like a few minutes, but at the beginning, especially after using an Ultra HD screen before it, I felt the difference in resolution. So it's obviously at this size, 22 or 21.5 inch screen using full HD resolution, you will have a low pixel density, especially compared to something like the iPad Pro, where you have crazy density with the Retina display and all. So the size is great, resolution not that great, but once again, this is a cheaper version, so there has to be some trade-offs on the quality or specifications. The active area on which you are drawing again is great. It is close to an A3 size paper, so that's pretty big. If you're used to drawing in sketchbooks, this is definitely much bigger. It's more like an art canvas. You have a decent amount of space still for drawing, even if you have all your panels on the left and the right. And that's basically how I work. So for me, anything smaller than this screen would feel a little bit too less. And even though this is a fairly big pen display, it doesn't take up too much space on the desk because the bezels around the active area are not that big. And also the stand, which this product comes with, doesn't take up that much space either. The weight of the product is around 5.5 kilograms or 12 pounds without the stand. So it is quite heavy, and I wouldn't recommend it to anyone who is traveling often and would like to take pen display or tablet with them on their journeys. For that, probably the smaller version, the 16 inch, would be more suitable, which is much less in weight as well. So that's, I think, less than 2 kilograms. Now, in terms of color gamut, we have 72% of NTSC, which is again not as good as the Cintiq Pro line, but still a very good amount of colors to work with, especially for an entry-level pen display. What's important to mention is that there is an anti-glare film on this Cintiq, and that is mainly to reduce reflections. I actually use paper-like screen protector on my iPad Pro, which again, apart from making it feel like you are drawing on paper, helps to reduce the glare. So I actually like that on this new Cintiq. And I don't mind that this product doesn't have an edged glass, again, which for the Cintiq Pro line has better durability and makes it more paper-like, the texture, so it's more grainy. I don't mind that that is not included in this cheaper version. However, it's important to mention that this anti-glare coating dims the colors somewhat. It's not that noticeable, and you can still calibrate the colors and they will look almost identical to other monitors, but still you can sort of tell, especially when you compare it to, let's say, the iPad Pro screen, that the colors are not as vivid. In general, I think Wacom found a really good balance at creating a budgeted version of their screen, so the drawing experience is still great, and the trade-offs are not bad at all. Some actually are, I would say, improvements almost to the Cintiq Pro line. Now, in terms of connectivity, you have 3 separate cables, so there's no joint cable here. There's the HDMI, there's the standard USB, and the power cables. And they are nicely hidden away, so you don't have to worry about them too much. Once you set up the tablet, they are nicely stored away, tucked away. And the advantage of having these standard cables is that you can easily replace them. You can get longer ones if you want to have the Cintiq further away from your computer. While with the Cintiq Pro, you would have difficulties extending it because of the proprietary cable that comes with it. And this is also another difference that you have with the Cintiq Pro version, that there you have USB-C and Thunderbolt connections, which obviously you don't have in this version. But that doesn't really matter, especially if you have like a hub that I'm using, which has all kinds of different connections that you can literally just plug into one of the USB-C ports on a MacBook, let's say, and it just solves the problem very quickly. I included the link in the description for this hub that I'm using, and I can highly recommend it. It really served me well, and I'm doing lots of presentations, so I'm always connecting to all kinds of different projectors and all kinds of different devices, and it never failed me so far. The biggest advantages of working with a Wacom pen display has to be that you are using the Pro Pen 2, the Wacom Pro Pen 2, which is the ultimate standard in digital drawing. It offers 8,192 pressure levels and the 60 degrees pen tilt recognition. Now, some competitors are already replicating this and they are doing a fairly good job at it, but still I would say the Pro Pen 2 is the undisputable champion in the field. So it is the best drawing pen for a pen display that you can get. Now, I'm a huge fan of the iPad Pro's drawing experience with the Apple Pencil as well, but still I would say I prefer to work longer hours on the Cintiq because there's just a better grip and a more balanced hold on the Pro Pen compared to the Apple Pencil. Now, another huge unique selling point for me, and I think for a lot of other people, this new Wacom Cintiq 22 comes with a stand. So it comes with the Wacom Adjustable Stand that's included in the box, and it actually offers quite a wide range of drawing angles. So you get 16 to 82 degrees, which means that you can make it almost completely flat or almost completely upright like a screen. And it is very easy to adjust. There's just a little lever at the back and you can just pull it up and down. If you remove the stand, which is possible and fairly easy, then the Cintiq will support Vesa standards for mounting. That can be useful if you prefer more movement and even rotation for your Cintiq. But otherwise, I would say the adjustable stand that it comes with does a really good job. Now let's talk a little bit about the pricing. I am using the prices currently on Wacom's website at the point of recording this video, so these might change, but at the moment we are talking about around $1,200 for the Wacom Cintiq 22. And it is not to be confused with the Wacom Cintiq 22 HD, which is the older generation product. I think that came out around 6-7 years ago, and it's still available to purchase, which is more expensive than this one, but there are quite a lot of differences, so I don't even want to compare these two products. I just would like you to focus on the prices for the currently available options that are also still fairly new. So we have the Cintiq 22 for that much, then we have the smaller version for much less, almost half the price. So the Cintiq 16 is $650, but then we have the other professional line, the Cintiq Pros, which start at a size 13. That's almost exactly the size as the bigger iPad Pros, which is $800. And that by default includes touch features, which you won't get on this new Cintiq 22. And then as we move on to the larger Cintiq Pro, the 16, we already go beyond the Cintiq 22's price. So that is $1,500, still including touch. And then the 24 is $2,000 without touch, or $2,500 with the touch included. And then the largest one is the 32-inch screen, which is the most expensive one for $3,300, again, including the touch feature. Just for comparison, the Huion Canvas Pro 22 that came out 2019 recently, which is almost identical in terms of features to the new Wacom Cintiq 22, is currently sold on Amazon UK for $875. And this is where you might say that Huion then clearly wins the battle in terms of price because it's more of a budget pen display than the Wacom Cintiq 22. And you are right, but you have to keep in mind that we are talking about two different product lines and two different companies. So Wacom is the gold standard for displays because of their technology, and they have a lot of patents that they started and they improved and refined for decades. And that is obviously up to you as a customer to decide whether that is important for you. So the legacy of the brand and the well-known quality that Wacom is famous for. And I feel like this review wouldn't be complete without comparing this product to the iPad Pros as well. Now, if you're buying the latest generation large screen iPad Pro, the 12.9 inch, but with the lowest specs possible, you are paying around $1,200 right now if you're buying it directly from Apple. But don't forget that for that you have to also buy the Apple Pencil, which is around $150. And most likely you would also need to buy a case or something like a stand that you can adjust its height, which if you're buying, let's say, the Smart Folio, which I wouldn't recommend, but let's just say you're buying the one that Apple is selling, then again, you're paying another $125. So in total, you are paying around $1,500 for something that is not even a pen display that can be connected to your computer. Now, this is where the argument gets more interesting because, of course, we all know that Apple has announced that it is coming out with the iPad OS or operating system and also the Catalina Mac OS. And these two together will offer this sidecar feature, which means that you will be able to use the iPad Pro or even some other iPads as a secondary screen. And you will be able to draw on the iPad and use Photoshop, Illustrator, or all kinds of other desktop applications. So you won't be limited to tools like Procreate anymore. I also feel a bit like whoever has an iPad Pro at this point should probably wait until this new OS comes out and try it out, because then basically the iPad Pro will act as a smaller Cintiq like the Cintiq 13, but with the advantage that you can also use it as a separate device. So if you're traveling, you can use it and draw, let's say, in Procreate, but then when you are at your desk and you're working, you can just basically connect it wirelessly and use it as a secondary screen and then have Photoshop or Illustrator and just use the Apple Pencil and continue working like that. So that's where obviously Apple will have a quite big advantage, but we are not there yet. So we don't know exactly when that will come out. Most likely later this year, probably Q4, but we will have to see. Until then, I will say that having an iPad Pro and the Cintiq makes sense, because I would use the iPad Pro when I'm traveling, but I would use the Cintiq when I'm working at my desk. Now, I mentioned that with the iPad Pro, you have to buy all kinds of things together with the tablet itself for it to become like a normal drawing tool. But with the Cintiq 22, you might also need to buy one additional thing, and that is the Express Key remote. Unfortunately, that's not included in this bundle, again, because this is not the Pro line. This is something you have to buy separately. The good news is that it's compatible with it, and I tried it out. The only thing you need to do if you have an older Cintiq or the Cintiq Pro, you have to take out the little USB receiver and just plug it into the computer, which the new Cintiq is connected to. And then you have to also make sure that the remote control is not too far from the receiver, because it is built in the other pen displays in a way that it is quite close to the area where you would normally have the remote. It needs to be fairly close, so you can't really be far away. Now, why would you need the remote? Well, mainly because this new Wacom Cintiq 22 doesn't have any express keys on it. So the only customizable option that you have is on the pen itself. You have the two buttons on it and the eraser, which you can set to other functions, but that's pretty much it. So if you don't have the desk space for a keyboard, or if you don't like using the keyboard and you would prefer to have express keys, the remote is the only option. However, there's something also I need to mention, that there is no magnet on the side of this new Cintiq 22, which means if you are using a higher angle or more vertical angles, it's just going to fall off. It's not going to stay there. If you are drawing fairly flat, it will stay in place, but even the size of the bezels are not big enough. So the place next to the active area is not big enough for it to sit comfortably. So it might overlap some parts of the screen, either whether you put it on the left or the right. So there's some clear trade-offs there again, but at least we have the compatibility. So if you already own a remote, you don't have to buy it separately. In case you need to buy it separately, it's $100 at the moment. And to summarize, let me run through quickly again the pros and cons. So first, the positives. Definitely, it has to be one of them is that the stand is included and it is easy to adjust. It offers a wide range of angles. It makes it very easy to set up. You have a big drawing area without taking up too much desk space. You have the amazing Wacom Pro Pen 2 that comes with the product. You have express key remote compatibility, even though it's not included, it works with it. The cables are nicely tucked away to the side under a latch, and it's good that it's on the side and not in the center like it used to be in previous products. So now when you are adjusting the angle of the stand, the cables are not getting in the way. And last but not least, another advantage is that the pen holder on the side works quite nicely. You can find extra nibs inside it as well, and even a nib remover, which is quite cool. The only thing you have to bear in mind is when you use it, make sure you are doing it above a table, because if it drops on the ground, the nibs are not easy to find, especially on a rug like this one. Now moving on to the cons or disadvantages, clearly the first and most important one is that we have a full HD screen instead of a higher resolution screen, and it can feel too low for such a big screen at such a close distance. But as I said, this is not something really bothered me, so I got used to it very quickly. However, some people might have an issue with this, so it's up to you what's more important for you, the price or the pixel density. I need to mention again the anti-glare coating, which is great for avoiding reflections, but it slightly dulls the colors. Not too much again, not distracting again, something you get used to once you start drawing on it. But again, I just need to mention this to make sure that you know about it. I also talked about that there's no magnet on the sides for the remote in case you are using it. There's no pen stand, just the pen holder on the side. And I actually found that although it works well, I prefer to have a pen stand. With them, I can very quickly and easily grab the pen, start drawing, and then just chuck it back into the pen holder, either standing vertically or to the side. And if you get this Cintiq 22 and you prefer to use something like these pen stands, you can get them from Wacom, or you can just buy something that holds the pen in a similar fashion. I bought this little plastic sharpener from Paper Chase. It's a very cheap and cheerful solution to the problem. And last but not least, I mentioned already that it is a quite heavy pen display, not ideal for traveling with, especially compared to products like the iPad Pro. Let us know in the comment section what would you like us to cover next time on this series. Click on the link in the description or the join button to become a member if you want to work on future projects with us and see the whole design or illustration process live. Thanks a lot for watching, like and share this video if you enjoyed it. Have fun learning, guys, and I will see you in the next one.